Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Central News for Monday, the 7th of July. I'm Hilary Entwistle. A local police officer is being hailed for his heroic actions after saving an elderly woman last night. At 6:45 p.m, the officer patrolling the suburb of Mount Maunganui came across a house fully engulfed in flames. The officer was first on the scene, and when he approached the house, he noticed an elderly female inside coming towards the door. But as she tried to unlock the door, she collapsed and fell backwards, disappearing into the black smoke that filled the room. The officer smashed a window and risked his life by entering the thick black smoke and was able to pull the woman to safety. Inspector Clifford Paxton says the heroic actions of the police officer were able to prevent a tragedy from taking place. Katikati Heritage Museum has been closed, but this has led to a lower than predicted rates rise for Western Bay Plenty District Council ratepayers. This has been slightly offset by the addition of $65,000 that had been tagged in the draft annual plan for operational costs for the museum. Mayor Ross Patterson says although there are costs associated with council taking responsibility for the protection, storage and cataloguing of the museum collection, these costs will be covered by the existing general rates reserve to remove the burden from ratepayers.
The outcome's been quite positive. The council has stepped in to protect the articles of the museum. The museum has closed. It had an unsustainable bottom line. It has closed, and we're looking to relocate it into the old Fire Brigade building in Katikati, and the cost structure of that will be borne from the rate reserve. So the cost won't fall on any one section of the community or right across the district in any form of rates.
Tauranga's Phil Campbell continues putting himself amongst New Zealand rallying's finest after a strong showing at the recent Rally Wairarapa. Campbell and co-driver Venita Fabro headed to the event, doubling as round 4 of the Brian Green Property Group New Zealand Rally Championship, hoping to increase their speed to put them in podium contention, but struggled early on with the handling of the car. Stage 8, the power stage, saw Campbell put in another impressive performance to take 3 bonus points for the third fastest time before coming within 6/10 of a second of the first ever NZRC stage win on the final stage. The Campbell Rally Sport Team now prepare for their home event, the Tauranga Clubman's Rally, on July 27th. New Zealand women believe man flu is real and say their partners exhibit childlike behaviour when sick, including wanting to be tucked into bed and having their temperatures taken, according to a new survey. The Vicks Vapor Rub survey revealed that nearly 3/4 of Kiwi women, 72%, believe man flu is the term to describe the childlike behaviour men resort to when ill, with only 16% saying they don't believe it exists. They may turn into children and be incredibly demanding when they're sick, but it seems many Kiwi men are at least honest about it. Almost 3 in 10, 29% Kiwi males admit to having suffered a persistent cold or flu that was difficult to shake, that they believe could be described as man flu. Tauranga City Council is to undergo a massive restructure involving internal job swaps that will see 52 jobs disappear and the creation of 54 new ones. About 400 council employees were informed of restructure in a series of meetings last week. CEO Gary Poole says the 52 staff directly affected are first choice for the new positions. Now for the marine forecast. West Coast, Raglan, poor visibility and scattered rain rising Tuesday afternoon, easterly 35 knots with very rough seas. High tide in Raglan is at 6:24 p.m. East Coast Bay of Plenty rising to easterly 20 knots but 25 knots in the west. High clouds and a few spots of rain in the evening. High tide in Tauranga is at 3:14 p.m. Still to come, the new steamers and the first shopping centre to go green. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Bay Fair in Mount Maunganui recently turned the taps on for its new grey water system. I spoke with Centre Manager Steve Allingford to find out what exactly grey water is and how much this saves them all.
Well, the new system's a grey water rainwater system. So what that means is when you wash your hands in the amenities. That water is taken away and treated and stored in a 5,000 litre tank or series of tanks. And also we collect 20,000 litres of water in a bladder tank, which is located under a car park ramp, which is like probably an 8 metre by 5 metre waterbed when it's full. Okay, they're mixed together and they're pushed back into the amenities and they're used to flush the toilets. The savings on our potable water supply for that area will be around about 56%, which in dollar terms over a year does not equate to a huge sum of money. But we did this more about the environment and showcasing what you can do in a retrofit situation in a large shopping centre.
When you say grey water, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, interesting question. Grey water is when you wash your hands. So we're picking up the hand basin water. So you wash your hands, that water's taken away, mixed with the rainwater, if it's available, and then it's treated and brought back in to flush the toilets.
How much water does that potentially mean you guys can be saving?
Well, we think around about 56% from that area, that consumption in those amenities. That equates to, I think it's 1.7 million litres of water around there somewhere, I think, which is reasonably substantial. We'd like to do more, but it really depends on how much it rains.
So you can guarantee that we won't be drinking the water?
Absolutely, yes, I can guarantee you will not be drinking it. Although, it is treated to a point where you probably could drink it if you needed to. But no, it goes back through the system and then is used only to flush the toilets.
Tell me about the launch you had to turn the systems on.
Well, we had a launch last Friday and we had the winners of the team, the winning team for the Enviro Challenge from 2014 from Katikati College, and also we had the Aquinas College Enviro team as well, and ambassadors. So they came in and they switched on the big lever and got the system running, and that was last Friday. And it was a great way to celebrate, I think, the start of what is a fantastic initiative.
You have a little bit of a passion for these sustainable things. Can you tell me about some of the other measures that you guys have here at Bayfair?
Just want to really, I suppose, mention that we did have some partners. You know, the owners of the centre, AMP Capital Investors and Fisher Funds, but also Regional Council through the Environmental Enhancement Fund also contributed some funds towards this project, and the three key contractors, and that was Becker, Tauranga Harbour and Plumbing and Core Electrical, all chipped in with their knowledge and time to help us basically make this project happen. As far as what we do outside of this, we have lots of initiatives right across from our waste minimisation through to energy management. So our waste currently, we divert 67% of the centre's waste from landfill, and our cost for waste to landfill last year was still 20% lower than what it was in 2003, which is pretty remarkable considering how much waste has gone up to landfill. Energy management's a strong point for us as well. We have solar tubes, we have solar panels. We've just done a full LED retrofit of the centre, which cost just under $400,000 in partnership with ECA and Philips Electrical, and that should provide us savings somewhere around about 60% on the common area lighting energy, which equates to just over $100,000 a year.
Why are you so passionate though?
There's a whole group of people involved. As I said, the owners are passionate as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you can do the right thing for the environment, and you can actually save money or make money from that, and you can, and also that gives you the opportunity to engage and do the right thing in the community, I think it's really a no-brainer. You have to do it. It makes good financial sense, and it's great PR, and it's great community engagement.
Do you ever come across people that are a little bit harder to persuade to take on these environmental ideas?
I think yes, you do, but I also think that we've been doing this for 10 years, and I definitely think 10 years ago it was a bit more of a struggle. But over that 10-year period, you look at the kids who come through school, they learn about recycling, they learn about rainwater management. And we did a project with Arataki Kindy. We fitted them with a rainwater collection system. And we funded that and we put that in there. Again, we did that in partnership with some of our contractors, but we put in a 5,000 litre storage unit and a 1,000 litre storage tank, almost I can't actually think of the term, but it's a separate tank. And that had a wee flag on it, which would go up and down when it was full with rainwater. And then the kids had a wee pump, hand pump, like you might see in an old Western. And the whole point of that was to show the children that when the flag's up, there's water, and when there's water, they can use the water, but they have to work for it. They use the pump. When there's no water, there's no water. So it really is a good education tool, and I think that is just one example. But you look at what's going through the education systems now, the kids do the drain game, they have that drain game song about stormwater, they learn about recycling. So I think that is slowly changing. And the likes of what we're doing here, and especially with the grey water, rainwater, we're really saying to other people, hey, look what we're doing. We are leading that market, because this is the first in a shopping centre.
So there's nothing else like this in New Zealand?
It's the first in a shopping centre, and I think there may be some others around in other, like maybe in commercial sites, but not in shopping centres. So very unique, yeah.
Coming up next, the latest on the Waitangi Tribunal into the Ringna wreck. Welcome back to Central News. The owners of the stricken container ship Ringna MV have applied for resource consent to leave the remainder of the wreck on Astrolabe Reef, as they say it is too dangerous an operation to fully remove the ship. Local iwi called for an emergency Waitangi Tribunal hearing, as they say the government have breached the treaty. I spoke with Ngai Te Hapu spokesperson Buddy Makaere about claim Y2393.
Well, basically, we're asking the Waitangi Tribunal to look at the wreck removal notice that was served on the owners way back in 2011 when they first crashed the ship into the reef. And we've asked the Crown to enforce the removal notice, which they served on them at that time. And so, 3 years down the track, it's kind of dragging the heels a wee bit.
Has that wreck removal deed been made public?
Yes, it has. Well, it certainly has after our hearing earlier this week. It's quite a pernicious document. It says things like, it's kind of a misnomer to start with, like it's called the wreck removal deed, but when you read through the clauses, it's more about leaving the wreck behind. So it should be a wreck leave it there deed in our view. The thing that we got upset about in the deed in particular was the fact that the Crown promises to facilitate or help the owners with their resource consent application, and that's the application they just lodged at the end of May, which is basically to dump the wreck and all the debris and everything else that goes with it on the reef. Naturally, we're opposed to that.
It's not just the wreck out there, is it? I mean, there's stuff inside still, isn't there?
That's right, and there are at least several hundred containers that still haven't been recovered. The last weather event, a couple of those containers broke open, so you've still got stuff like rotting meat and things like that pouring out. The infamous polystyrene beads, which there are billions and billions between here and the shoreline in Motiti Island. Another whole container load of them released. Things which are quite toxic in a marine environment, like copper shavings and that kind of thing. So we still don't know what the reaction between some of the various chemicals on the ship were, and things like, for example, the oil dispersant that they sprayed on the oil. So there's lots of unknowns still about the effect that leaving that thing there is going to have on the marine environment.
How is the $10.4 million settlement agreed between the government and the owners? How's that in breach of the treaty?
I'm always saying that the fact that if the owners achieve the resource consents they're looking for, they will pay the government 10.4. So we see that as being a way of incentivising the government to do its best to help them. And so as far as we're concerned, the people who actually live here, that just doesn't seem right to us.
Was there any consultation with iwi back in 2012 about that agreement?
On the deed itself, no. And that's why we're saying this is a breach of the treaty. Article 2 of the treaty promised Māori that they would have ownership of their forestry in the state and their waters until such time as they no longer wanted that. So we've never given up our customary ownership of that reef. So the Crown has through the treaty, guaranteed that they will protect our ownership rights. So, it's like if someone crashed a car into your house and then the Crown came along and did a deal with the person who drove the car to say that, hey, we'll help you leave it stuck in this house, and furthermore, if you pay us some money, that'll be good. So it's a similar kind of situation, and we're just saying, as the owner of the reef, or as the owner of the house in my example, how come you're not involved in this whole transaction? And, as it's happened here, 2 years down the track, the Crown decides it'll come knocking on the door and say, so do you want to talk about what's happened? I mean, it's a bit late.
Some are arguing that the reef isn't a taonga.
Oh, they can argue themselves black or blue, but in our hearing the other day, the Crown accepted that it was a taonga, so end of argument.
Hapu are pushing for a maritime New Zealand statutory notice to be enforced. What is that? What will that involve? That's right, that's the notice that we were talking about earlier. We want that enforced. The notice asks that they remove it. They're putting a different interpretation on that, saying that they remove it to the extent that it's no longer a navigational hazard. But by the same token, under the Resource Management Act, they have to remove it. So we'll just see how we go with that one. Some are saying that the Māori voice has been suppressed in a way. Do you agree?
Probably not so much suppressed as hasn't been heard yet. That's because the application for those resource consents has only just been lodged in May. Everybody's got until, I think, the beginning of August to lodge submissions, whether they support or oppose the application. I think you'll find that the majority Māori submissions will be for opposition and seeking the removal of the REC in total.
We will be following this closely. Stay tuned, is up next, weather for Tuesday, and who are the steamers for this year? Welcome back. There are 12 new faces on the Bay of Plenty steamers this season after the club competition, with 7 of the 10 teams represented. The squad features 19 players returning from the 2013 team. I spoke with head coach Kevin Schuler about these new players and what they will bring to the team.
Yeah, well, we've as in any team, you always lose a few and get a few new ones come to the region. So Hamish Gosling's a guy who has come to us from Manawatu, 60 games for them, moved up here with his wife's work. So great to have someone that's level of experience. Young Dan Hollinshead, straight out of Tauranga Boys College, 18 years old. So he's a Bay boy that I'm sure people will be keen to follow. Teddy Stanaway is a big centre, 12-13, come down from Auckland, played New Zealand Colts a few years ago with Aaron Cruden in that era, and he's moved his whole family down here and working at the port, and he's a good solid addition to the midfield. Young Jono Kiddo, half-back, again New Zealand under-20s a couple of seasons back, and had his pathway blocked in Canterbury, so he came at the start of the year as well, and players like that have really added to our environment. Siosi Yongi, a big bullocking, scary running midfield wing, playing for Rangatawa. He played Tongan Sevens a few years ago too, so he's a big 106 kilogram beast that we hope to unleash on the comp as well.
Is there a reason there's been so many new players brought in this season?
Yeah, well, like I said, you always do get changes, and we've had guys like Tanara Latimer, been great stalwarts of the Bay for years, have chosen to the next stage in their careers, in their professional careers, to play overseas, and he's been a great servant. So you're always going to get the attrition. We're lucky you had a Davey Whitcliffe Davies, who was a Bay boy, been away learning how to be a policeman up in Auckland for a few years. He's come and replaced Lats. Guys like Phil Burley and Chris Noakes are harder to replace, and they've had a lot of experience as well. But we've got some young boys have come in and filled those shoes at 10. So we're pretty excited about the group. Young Dan Hollinshead, just a year out of school, gets a chance, so it's pretty exciting for him.
Was the selection process a little harder this year with so much talent out there in the club teams?
Yeah, we've been so lucky with the club comp. The people that benefit the most from good, hard games week in, week out are the players. So the fact that our club comp's been so close, there's still 5 teams that can win it with 2 weeks to go. That's pretty exciting. There's people on the sideline loving watching the games as well. So a lot of players have put their hand up, and we went through a trial process as well. And there's some good boys have missed out, some players that were in the team the last few years, and there's a Tarangi Fraser, he missed the cut, another young first five who played East Coast a couple of years ago. And he scored, after we didn't pick him, we went out and scored 4 tries the next weekend. So there's still a lot of pressure. And the good thing is we've got some wider training group slots to fill as well. So, hopefully some of those boys that just missed out can put their hands up and come through and be part of that broader group.
The new captain, Callum Retallick, is actually a Blues player. So is he a Jaffa or is he a Bay boy originally?
He's not a Jaffa, so I think the Bay people will be happy to know that. He's our longest serving player at the moment. So he came right back in the early 2000s as a little bit of a chubby, overweight lock, but with plenty of talent. Cousin of Brodie, and he's been with the Bay for years now. So we consider him a Bay boy. He'd probably like to be thought of as a Jaffa, but he's not. He's a Bay boy now.
To follow our boys and their upcoming games, visit boprugby.co.nz. Now for our weather, Hamilton increasing high cloud and an easterly. Your expected high is 13 and an overnight low of 9. The rest of the Waikato, high cloud increasing and a few spots of evening rain. You too have the easterly picking up during the day. Paeroa 15 and 10, Matamata 13 and 12, Te Awamutu 13 and 9, and Tokoroa 11 and 7. Bay Plenty, Tauranga increasing high cloud and easterlies. Your expected high is 15 and 10. And Te Puke increasing high cloud, a few spots of evening rain and easterlies for you. 13 and 10 your expected temperatures. That is the news for today. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can contact us by email news@tvcentral.co.nz or like our Facebook page. Join me again tomorrow night as I chat with some students hoping to encourage youth to vote in the upcoming election, and we find out about what is coming up in the art scene in Tauranga. Until then though, I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.